BMW makes some of the best electric cars around, and the iX2 is its latest offering. As the name suggests, it's the electric version of the BMW X2 and shares its underpinnings with the BMW X1 and X1. But where the X1 is an upright, practical small SUV, the X2 and X2 have a dramatic coupe-like silhouette with a sloping roofline. It's a bit like a post-war semi-detached house with a bright white render and some glitzy chandeliers. The bones remain practical and sensible, but there's an additional modern layer that for some makes it all the more desirable. You might be considering the EX2 alongside a whole host of other electric SUVs. Not only the aforementioned iX1, but big hitters such as the Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback, Volvo C40, and Tesla Model Y. Design-wise, there's little to mark the iX2 out from the petrol-powered X2, only a filled-in front grille and associated badging. This makes it ideal if you're the sort of person who'd like an EV, but you don't really want to shout about it too much. With its sloping roofline, angular rear, statement front grille, and intricate headlights, the iX2 certainly stands out among more minimalist SUVs. The exterior styling might be a bit of an acquired taste, but for most people there's little to complain about on the inside. Not only is it well designed, it's very well built with high quality materials and lots of technology. The BMW iX2 has an RRP range of 51,615 pounds to 61,715 pounds. However, with CarWow, you can save on average 1,684 pounds. Prices start at £50,094 if paying cash. Monthly payments start at £680. The price of a used BMW iX2 on CarWow starts at £59,995. The EX2 starts at nearly £52,000 for the eDrive 20 model in its sole M Sport trim, which is quite a sum considering the same powertrain costs from £46,205 in the iX1. However, that's in a lower trim level. The equivalent iX1 M Sport is only around £600 below the iX2. In comparison with the Volvo C40 or Tesla Model Y, that's quite pricey. The iX2 is more comparable to larger, longer-range EVs, such as the Kia EV6 and Audi Q4 e-tron Sportback. Good residual values make for appealing finance packages, but in cash terms, the iX2 is quite an expensive car, especially if you want the additional performance of the xDrive 30 model. In town, the iX2's electric powertrain and slew of useful driver aids make it a dawdle to pilot around town. Even in its most efficient setting, there's plenty of punch to get away quickly at traffic lights, with the benefit of the gearless, seamless electric motor making for smooth progress no matter what. Visibility out of the front is good, but the rear of the car has fairly poor visibility with a small rear window and thick C-pillar limiting your over-the-shoulder view. At least there's plenty of technology to help you out, particularly BMW's clever parking systems, which can park the car for you or even repeat your last moves in reverse if you've gone too far down a narrow cul-de-sac or have to back out of a tight spot in a multi-story car park. On the motorway, the iX2's firm suspension is much less noticeable at speed on a smooth motorway. The car settles down quite nicely and makes for a good cruiser. There's plenty of punch from the xDrive 30 model we tested, even in the 50-70 mph range where some electric cars can feel sluggish. Of course, with 313 HP on tap, you'd rather hope that this model was powerful enough for motorway speeds to feel effortless. We'll update this review with our impressions of the lower-powered eDrive 20 when we've tested it, but it still has 204 HP and shouldn't feel underpowered. On a twisty road, the iX2 isn't bad when you reach an exciting road. The steering is nicely weighted and accurate, so it's easy to place the car where you're aiming it. The xDrive 30 model has all the power you could want on a British B road, and if you overcook it slightly, you can feel the rear motor stepping in to stop you from getting too out of line. It'll do 0-62 mph in a brisk 5.6 seconds, compared to 8.6 seconds for the eDrive 20. It's never really fun though, a bit like the iX1, You can really feel that the iX2 is quite a heavy car when you start to get a wiggle on. It doesn't feel especially nimble like smaller BMWs are supposed to. Drivers and front passengers of all sizes shouldn't have much to complain about in the BMW iX2. Unlike some EVs where you sit uncomfortably high, the iX2's front seats go down nice and low, and there's loads of adjustment. Especially of note for taller drivers is the extendable seat cushion, which gives drivers with long legs a bit more under-thigh support. Storage space is good, but not exceptional. There are ample door bins and a good-sized glove box, but there's a lack of anywhere useful to sling keys, wallets, or other assorted pocket debris. The tray underneath the central armrest isn't very easily accessible when you're sat down either. High quality with a great touchscreen system, but lack of buttons can frustrate. The iX2's interior is almost identical to the regular X2. It's self-lifted straight from the X1/X1 and similar to other small BMWs. That's not a bad thing in the least. It doesn't feel at all like an entry-level car, with very high interior quality throughout and plenty of luxurious materials. Even lower on the dash, where plastics are a little cheaper, it still feels well built. Unlike a Mercedes EQA, there are almost no creaks and rattles. The dashboard is dominated by two large screens, a center infotainment screen that measures 10.25 inches and a driver display for instrumentation that measures 10.7 inches. Both sit under the same piece of glass, making for a seamless look and feel. The screens are both bright and clear, with a responsive interface. Everything's easy enough to hit, which is good as unlike larger BMWs, there is no rotary dial to use as a backup. However, there are so many features that sometimes you do end up having to scroll through a lot of menus, not always easy to do on the move. However, BMW has retained physical controls for things like the seats and the mirrors, which is good. Electric range, charging, and tax, the iX2 isn't up there with the best EVs for range, but nor does it embarrass itself. With a maximum range of 282 miles from the eDrive 20, it does look a little weedy next to cars like the Tesla Model Y, Volvo C40, or Kia EV6, all of which can do more than 300 miles per charge officially. The more powerful xDrive 30 has a maximum range of 267 miles. However, the BMW does have a smaller battery than those cars, so it's actually quite efficient. This will pay dividends when it comes to the overall cost of ownership, especially if you regularly use public charging. Speaking of public charging, find a sufficiently powerful charge station, and the iX2 can top up at a maximum rate of 130 kW. That's good for a 10-80% charge in 29 minutes in a best-case scenario. Again, that's not hugely impressive next to Volvo and Tesla's 200+ kW speeds, but it's sufficient for the size of the iX2's battery. Safety and security. The iX2 hasn't been individually tested by Euro NCAP, but it's likely it will inherit its rating from the mechanically similar iX1. That scored a full 5 stars when Euro NCAP tested it, performing additional assessments over a diesel-powered X1 that it had previously evaluated. Safety equipment for the X2 is good, with the latest version of its autonomous emergency braking system even able to warn the driver of pedestrians or cyclists traveling parallel to the car that might be in the way when turning. The same system can warn you if you're parked up and about to open your door into a passing bike. Reliability and problems. The old BMW X2 wasn't without its problems, just like the X1 it was based on. However, the latest X1 has proved quite dependable, with only one small recall since launch. The iX1 hasn't had any specific recalls, and as an EV, it has fewer moving parts to worry about or to service. So good signs for the reliability of the iX2. BMW's standard warranty is just 3 years but unlimited mileage, making it useful for those who do lots of long journeys. It's about on par with the warranties from Mercedes or Audi, but some Korean and Japanese brands do offer much longer coverage. BMW also offers 8 years and 100,000 miles of cover for the battery, which is about standard.